All right, welcome everybody to the 105th episode of the Fact Is podcast on this beautiful Wednesday night. I'm one of your hosts, Nate Moses.
And I'm Ryan Mays.
And we have the all-time GOAT announcer here today.
The all-time greatest of all time.
Welcome everybody. Appreciate y'all being here on this Wednesday night. So, got a lot to talk about, of course. First thing we want to do, though, is we want to open up this discussion with, something that the reason we're choosing to do this in the first couple minutes is because this shouldn't be something that we continue to talk about. Not that it isn't important necessarily, but the fact that we're still talking about this in 2022 is kind of absurd because we're wasting our time on this topic when in reality we all understand how it is. So, oh Lord, that is loud. Oh my Lord, hold on. There we go.
Fail anyways. On Nate's part.
So, with this 105th episode, we're going to go ahead and open up with this topic. We're going to talk about the U.S. Congress passing the landmark bill protecting same-sex marriage. Just going to make it a very quick breeze through. The U.S. House of Representatives on Thursday gave final congressional approval to legislation that provides federal recognition of same-sex marriages, a measure born out of concern that the Supreme Court could reverse its support for legal recognition of such relationships. The House vote was 258 to 169, with all the chamber's Democrats and 39 Republicans voting in favor, though 169 of the chamber's Republicans voted against it and one voted present. The measure now goes to Democratic President Joe Biden's desk for signature into law. The Respect of Marriage Act, as it is called, won Senate approval last month. Okay, so that to me is basically the extent of it, right? I mean, you can go through the history and kind of read and get to understand this. The fact that we're still talking about this and it's 2022? I mean,
almost 23.
We should not be talking about same-sex marriage. Who you decide to love, who you decide to be with, who you're involved with sexually. I do not care. I could care less.
Nor do I.
Enjoy your life. Be with who you want to be. I don't think it's any more simple than that.
The only thing I can say is choose love. I mean,
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Love who you want to love. Mm-hmm. And then, I can't, in a way, I'm happy that this is going through because now it's protected, and anybody who's out there who feels one way or another gets to, feel how they want to feel.
Right.
And I think that that's something that, it should have been in place a long time ago, but now that it is, it's good.
Yeah.
So, but kind of along the same line what you were just saying, it's 2022, people.
Yeah, are we still talking about this?
This has been a thing now for a while.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all for it. Again, I'm happy that people get to celebrate who they love and who they want to be with. It's none of my business who anybody decides to be with, right? So it doesn't concern me. It's not something that's going to affect my everyday life.
Stuart, did you hear that?
Let's just
something
move
that doesn't cause him concern.
Let people be who they are, move on, move forward, right? This should have been established years ago. But it is what it is. I'm glad it's getting done now. But, this is just a smaller topic that we can move forward from because I think we're all in the same consensus that it's a good bill. It's, I don't think it needed to be talked about. I don't think it needed to be stated, but I'm glad it is just being put out there in the public to basically say, hey, it is what it is. Same-sex marriage is now cement in stone and, move forward.
Does this mean the free trial's over?
I have no idea.
Because, when you consider the last couple of years, then a free trial, and now it's we're paying for it.
I mean, yeah.
In Virginia, it's still banned, though.
What, same-sex marriage? How?
I think certain states it's still banned.
That's what I don't understand. Why waste our resources, time, or concern over something like this? You know what I mean?
Well, fun fact, it's also illegal to have sex with your shoes on in Virginia. So there's that.
Like one of those random
like in Florida,
illegal things. Yeah,
in Florida, it's illegal to tie your alligator to a fire hydrant.
Yeah. Or what was another one for Virginia? It was illegal to hit your wife until a certain time on town. I don't know. They have some weird ass laws.
Some of those old laws.
It made no sense, but so I mean, any kind of closing thoughts on that, gentlemen, or are we kind of in agreement with that?
I would say it's closed.
Yeah. Okay. Fair
That's
enough.
my closing
Stu,
thought.
you too.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, fantastic. So there is that
On to the
same-sex
next
marriage
one.
bill.
On
You
to the next
know,
one.
good
On
for
to the
Congress
next
protecting
one.
it, but you know, wasn't something we really needed to concern ourselves with, just because pretty much consensus.
Let it be closed, Nave. Go.
Let it be closed. Moving forward. Here we go. So let's talk about
to your regular program.
not to our regular scheduled program. Brittney Griner is released in a prisoner swap for Russian arms dealer. Ooh, this one's fun.
Wasn't this guy's nickname the Merchant of Death?
The Merchant of Death, and one of the most wanted men in the entire world. And we traded him for a basketball player who likes to smoke weed and hates America. WNBA
You said
star.
that, not me.
No, that's what
That was a
everybody's
little
saying.
harsh. I mean, we got an American citizen back.
We did it,
But
so
I
like,
don't
yeah, to
agree
be
with
positive.
the trade at all, especially when you have a Marine sitting over there who's done, actual things for our
Not
country.
only that, but did you also hear about the gentleman who's over there who has the exact same charge that Brittney Griner does and has been there since 2021, I believe?
Oh. I was going to say, if you said like 16, I was like, yeah, it's
I think it's something Fugal, but I'll look that up here in a minute. Let me get through this.
And I mean
article.
that in the most lighthearted sense. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to,
Right.
Okay.
WNBA star Brittney Griner has been freed in a prisoner swap between the U.S. and Russia after nearly 10 months in incarceration. The U.S. freed convicted Russian arms dealer Victor Bout in exchange for Griner that took place in the United Arab Emirates, according to a senior administration official. Russian media footage showed the pair briefly passing each other on the runway in Abu Dhabi. Through multiple engagements, the Russians made it clear that the only route to securing Brittney Griner's return was Bout's release. Griner was arrested in February after Russian authorities said they found a vape cartridge with hashish oil in her luggage. Hashish oil,
Yeah.
thank you. See, I don't know anything about reefer. Griner pleaded
Nor do
guilty
I.
to the charges in early July, but said she had no intent to break the law. Her defense team later provided a letter showing her doctor in the U.S. had prescribed her medical cannabis 2 years ago for chronic pain. She was sentenced to 9 years in prison to transferred penal colony. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said in late July the U.S. had made a substantial proposal to the Kremlin to secure release of Griner and former Marine Paul Whelan. Blinken said both were wrongfully detained. Reports suggest that the Biden administration would be willing to exchange Bout, who was serving a 25-year prison sentence in the U.S., for Griner and Whelan's freedom. The deal announced Thursday didn't include an exchange for Whelan, who has been held in 2008 since 2018. The Russians were not willing to negotiate in good faith the release of Paul Whelan. At this time, White House Press Secretary Catherine Jean-Pierre said at a news conference Thursday. So this is the second highest profile prisoner swap this year between Russia and the U.S. and Biden administration in April released former U.S. Marine Trevor Reed, who had been detained in Russia since 2019. Moscow has treated Whelan's case differently than other Americans detained there because of his espionage conviction and was unwilling to agree to a deal that included him. So after months of being unjustly detained in Russia, held under intolerable circumstances, Brittney will soon be back in the arms of her loved ones and should have been there all along. So there you go, right? So Brittney Griner exchange. Let's hear your thoughts on this first, Ryan. I want to hear what you got to say about it. So
I mean, it's just more of what I just said. I think the trade was, I'm not going to say terrible because it was god-awful. It's one of those things where it's like, yes, what happened to Brittney Griner is definitely not cool.
Right.
And it's most certainly unfair. I mean, you're talking about someone who is medicinally prescribed marijuana and marijuana product for pain and goes to another country. They happen to check her bag. I don't even know the whole story, but anyway, they check her bag. They find out that she's got this vape cartridge with hashish, and they throw her in prison. Basically, throw away the key. That's not cool. That's wrong. However, the other guy earned the nickname the Merchant of Death.
Yep.
Like, he earned that. You don't just get called that. Although I have to say it's kind of a cool nickname. But besides besides that point, like, this guy is no good and is young enough. I know he's not in like great health right now, but it's because he's been in prison.
Right.
So when he gets out, he can go, he's going to eat a steak dinner with Vladimir, and they're going to laugh about, haha, we literally got gold for poop. Like, seriously.
Yeah, again, the side of it's a good thing that we got an American citizen back, 100% agree, right? Like, I am glad that we got an American citizen back who, was wrongfully detained. And we can all kind of come to that agreement. The frustrating part of this is the fact that we still have Whelan over there, right? Not to mention, there's another gentleman
who is a U.S. Marine,
Vogel Griner, a 61-year-old history teacher from Pennsylvania who lived in Russia while teaching the Anglo-American school in Moscow. He was taken into custody by Russian authorities in August of 2021, which is longer than what Griner's been there, after customs officials at the Russian airport discovered around half an ounce of medical marijuana stashed in his luggage. The drugs has been prescribed to him by doctors in the U.S. to help treat chronic pain stemming from a series of injuries and operations having to do with his spine. So he's there. Fogel is there for 14 years, and we completely left him behind. And the only reason we brought Griner back was because she's a high-profile celebrity, right? Because she plays basketball, and that's what we would consider a high-profile celebrity. So that right there is so frustrating. The fact that we left a Marine and somebody with the exact same charge and let them stay over there. I don't understand how we couldn't get all three of those individuals over here for the Merchant of Death. Explain that to me.
Well, I mean, they're saying that the Kremlin would not, in good faith, participate in any of those talks. Well, it's like, okay, well, we got your Merchant of Death. You have one of our WNBA players.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, that's not a fair trade.
Not a fair trade. And, sometimes you got to stick firm to that.
Here's a question. Would Trump have made that deal?
I have no idea.
I don't think he would have.
I don't know, but Trump,
no, he wouldn't, because he's the master of the deal.
The thing that frustrates me about Trump is he had such a good opportunity, and I know we talked about this right towards the end of his presidency. He had a really good opportunity to pardon Snowden. Never did take that opportunity. I wish he would have.
Or Julian Assange.
That's right. Because if he would have done that, that would have been huge.
Yeah, but I can see that over this trade.
Right.
Because at least you can make the argument that Snowden damaged American society in a sense by lifting the veil.
It's an argument. I would disagree with it. Yeah,
I completely disagree with it. But you can make the argument that Snowden released top secret information
to the American
which is
people.
a no-no. I mean,
he knew his consequences.
Take an oath, you do those things to secure a top secret clearance, and then you go and you start releasing that top secret information. That's that going in that you're facing jail time.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's basically quote unquote espionage.
Yeah, so I mean,
so there can be an argument made why he would not pardon Snowden before making this deal.
Because if you ask me, Trump definitely wouldn't have made this deal. Number one, he's more of the Republican side, of course. So with that being said, the fact that Griner and my little thing in the beginning, the fact that Griner does, she's LGBTQ, she has a wife. She, speaks out about those rights. She's been known to criticize America pretty heavily, which is okay. I mean, again, we have the freedom to do that. I mean, we criticize America all the time, right? So, she definitely probably wouldn't have gotten pardoned by any kind of Republican sided of that government.
It's not necessarily a pardon, but the swap.
Swap.
I do think that Trump would have made the deal, but I would like to think that he is a good enough negotiator that he would have gotten Whelan.
Yeah, and
at least Whelan.
At least, yeah, because again, when you come back to this, it is not a fair trade.
No.
We have somebody who literally targeted Americans, sold weapons to make sure that Americans died, and made sure that the acts against Americans was a good thing. So, the Merchant of Death, Victor Bout, he definitely did not deserve to walk for a WNBA star. That's all I have to say. And, I don't care if it was LeBron James over there personally. I don't care if it was, any kind of sports world star. You are not worth somebody who is going to be coming back to Russia to now kill more Americans and target our military, continue to make arms trades deals. Now, there's been some talks about Victor's health and how long he'll actually last, but either way, I mean,
why
that's
did the
just
Kremlin
crazy.
want him back so bad?
Yeah, why do they want to? Yeah, why do you
if
want
he's
him
in
back?
poor health and he's not going to make it very long, then why did they want him so bad?
It was a strategic move, and I can guarantee it'll come back to bite us in the butt within the next couple of years.
I think the thing that makes me the most upset about this is the fact that it makes America look weak.
Yeah.
Again, just one more example of weak leadership under the Biden administration.
Yeah.
I mean, you leave $85 million worth of military equipment in Afghanistan.
Yep.
You now make this really terrible trade. I mean, it just reeks weakness.
Yeah.
It does.
It also
Yeah,
makes him
'cause-
look like a hypocrite with the AR ban and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So my biggest concern coming out of this, I know we talked a little bit, and so the facts of the case are there was a swap, right? But the opinions in this case are what we're presenting to you now. And one of my opinions is this makes us, like you said, look weak, but it also shows other countries, hey, detain somebody that's considered high profile in America, you can get whoever you want back from them.
Yeah, if you're a celebrity in America right now, you probably should
Stay in America. Do not leave.
Unless you're going to
country.
like maybe Britain.
Even then, you never know, because at this point,
Definitely don't go anywhere close to where there's Russian influence.
at all, because at this point, what it's showing is, again, if you're a high-profile character in America, they will make any prisoner swap to make sure that you get back home. Which, I mean, good on the American government, I guess, but it's also frustrating at the same time. So, bringing it back full circle, Brittney Griner, Victor Bout trade. Do any of us think it was a fair trade? I say no.
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 I thought Stern was going to throw the monkey or the wrench into the cog.
It's very weird.
It is weird. Again, glad we got
It
American
sounds very
citizen
political
back,
to
but
me.
It is very political.
Oh.
It is. So yeah, that's full circle. Brittney Griner case closed.
Also, I don't think she should be in jail for weed
Yeah.
or
So
whatever.
last part of this discussion:
It's marijuana.
marijuana should not be illegal in the U.S. federally or anywhere around the world at this point. I mean, we should seriously move on from that, but.
You'd think.
I mean, but we also I don't know if y'all saw this earlier. Iran just got kicked out of the UN out of the Women's Rights Commission side of the UN because of what they're doing to women right now and how they're, kind of holding them back from their freedoms. So that's another interesting thing. But
Yeah, it's just weird. She was arrested for her cartilage.
yep.
And this guy's like a arms dealer. Wasn't he on like the
He
list?
was on the most wanted list in the entire world.
So I
The other
can
thing is,
I can look at it too. Like I don't want her in jail for that. Then like
but she's not worth him.
to make the trade of them two, it's just odd.
Yeah. In my opinion, she's not worth him.
Yeah.
And that sucks because we're talking about human life here. I mean, we're talking about people rotting away in prison. One wrongfully, the other justifiably.
right.
And it just, one does not equal the other. Anyway, what
but
we got
anyways,
next?
yeah, let's move forward because we kind of came to a consensus on that one, but we'll keep track of Wheeling.
Love to
and
hear the
Fogel.
argument against it though.
Yeah, no, I would love to hear an argument against it. I mean, again, it's always good to have
Manny.
American citizen back, but yeah, hopefully we find our way towards getting Fogel and Wheeling back. Yeah, so hopefully we can find our way towards that. But moving forward, let's talk about some landmark milestones with energy and some cool things that have happened there.
Dun, dun, dun.
About 2 days or yesterday, A U.S. lab hits fusion milestone, raising hopes for clean power, which is awesome. A U.S. scientist on Tuesday revealed a breakthrough on fusion energy that could one day help curb climate change if companies can scale up the technology to a commercial level in the coming decades. Scientists at the Lawrence Livermore National Lab in California on December 5th, for the first time, briefly achieved a net energy gain in a fusion experiment using lasers. The U.S. Energy Department said the scientists focused a laser on a target to fuse two light atoms into a denser one, releasing the energy. Kimberly Butel, the director of Lawrence Livermore, told reporters at an Energy Department event that science and technology hurdles means commercialization is probably not 5 or 6 decades away, but sooner. With concerted effort and investment, a few decades of research on the underlying technologies could put us in a position to build a power plant. Scientists have known for about a century that fusion powers the sun and have pursued developing fusion on Earth for decades. The experiment briefly achieved what's known as a fusion ignition by generating 3.15 megajoules of energy output after the laser delivered 2.05 megajoules to the target. Arati Parbakar, director of the White House Office of Sciences and Technology Policy, who heard about the fusion at Livermore when she worked there briefly in 1978 as a teenager, said the experiment represents a tremendous example of what perseverance can achieve. Nuclear scientists outside of the lab said the achievement will be a major stepping stone, but there is much more science to be done before fusion becomes commercially viable. So,
Science.
Yes, science. Real quick, I just want to touch up on the last paragraph here. Focus Energy is one of dozens of companies working to commercialize fusion energy, and that have raised about $5 billion in private and government funding, with more than $2.8 billion coming in the 12 months before June of this year. So, a lot of money going towards this, and the discussion about nuclear energy. I mean, we've talked about this for a while. On the opinion side of all this, I think it's a great thing. We absolutely need to be working towards nuclear energy. The fact that we're starting to see landmark breaks in some of these discoveries and being able to actually use nuclear fusion to be able to start to power cities. I mean, that would be huge, right? Like, if we can actually create some nuclear power plants, we can start to move away from fossil fuels while also being able to work in the all electric side, solar, wind powered. We can look towards hydroelectric dams, things of that nature to be able to do it. But nuclear power is probably going to be the way we go.
I would think so. I mean, it's the power source of the universe, so why isn't it good for us? But the other thing that's really cool about this is, like, it's potentially like one of the biggest breakthroughs of our lifetime.
Yeah.
And with this could mean the future of renewable, usable, clean energy.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think has ever really been thought about before. I mean, being that we could see it in our lifetime.
Right.
Which would be amazing.
It
really would be cool. And then I would go out and actually buy one of these electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Because then it would make sense.
That's right. It's really good to see this breakthrough. I think it's about time. Again, this is the energy source that we've all talked about.
Did I hear that the byproduct of this is just water?
I don't know, actually. I'll be honest. I have no idea.
I wonder what the radiation output and everything like that is. Because that is something that, obviously is a concern after the Chernobyl incident and all that stuff. I know that was a fission reactor, but
just a quick Google search. What is the byproduct of nuclear fusion? It's a major byproduct is helium. Inert, non-toxic gas, no long-lived radioactive waste. Nuclear fusion reactors produce no high activity of long-lived nuclear waste, and that's by iter.org, which stands for, I will tell you in a minute. I have no idea what ITER is, but it looks like it's a pretty decent website.
Yeah, but I mean, so here, that's the coolest thing in the world, man. Like, and renewable energy source like that basically will not run out of energy. I mean, it's small. If I remember reading, I don't remember where I read it, but I remember reading that small things, like a very small amount of material, can produce huge amounts of energy.
Right.
And so that's amazing. Now, the next question I have is, if we are able to make this commercially viable and make this into power plants and make this a renewable energy source for the country and the world, where are we getting the material from? Because whatever country is rich in that material
That's
now
a good
just
point.
became the superpower of the world.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? So I didn't think about like the supply of what it would take to create a nuclear
Do
fusion.
we have that in the ground underneath us?
That's a great question. Something we should definitely discuss.
Because I know right now that all the like nuclear material, like what is it, something like 85% or something like that, is coming from Russia and China.
Right.
I know the naval carriers, they're powered by nuclear.
Yeah, fission.
Yeah. So, the main fuels used in nuclear fusion are deuterium and tritium. Both
Tritium?
both heavy isotopes of hydrogen. Deuterium constitutes a tiny fraction of natural hydrogen, only 0.0153%, and can be extracted inexpensively from seawater. Tritium can be made from lithium, which is also abundant in nature. So maybe it's not something. It's something that just comes from the earth that we'll be able to get more naturally instead of having to worry about necessarily going through somewhere
just
to find
filtered
it.
from seawater? That's dope.
Well, yeah, I mean that was part of what it said. So interesting.
Landlocked countries, though. Sorry about your bad luck.
Yeah, right. So it looks like that's what that's where. But again, this is just a quick Google search. Nothing really fancy. Who is this? Oh, it's the International Atomic Energy Agency. So it sounds pretty legit.
I wonder if the politicians will support it.
I would hope so. I mean, hell, they went through a lot of work to be able to suppress anything that Nikola Tesla came up with, and all the stuff he.
Seems like they just want
going.
like one energy source.
Yeah, but you can't do that. You're gonna have to diversify, just like anything in life. You need diversification. You know, so.
You will have pushback from politicians, especially
will.
like your coal country politicians, your oil politicians.
Well,
There's probably a lot of investors investing in this.
I feel like the right is going to argue, continue the use of fossil fuels. The left is going to argue we need to use other alternative energy sources like electric and all that. But why not meet in the middle and come up with a source that is, literally the best source we have? Yeah.
Well, the other thing is this is, if these oil companies are smart, they would be the ones leading the way on this stuff.
Right. Kind of like what we're going to see within the next 5 years, I'd say. You got like Marlboro that's probably going to try to take over in the marijuana industry because they're tobacco, right? Like you're going to see corporations starting to move towards these niches and what they're going to want to pick up.
Yeah. And if I'm an oil company, I'm
jumping on this.
Yeah. It's now that there's a breakthrough, I would be
Fast.
throwing billions.
Billions.
Because those billions would probably end up making you trillions.
Oh yeah, easily by the end of it all.
Yeah.
So and especially if we're the first country to break through with it and we start creating huge nuclear power sources, other countries are going to want to catch on. Maybe we develop patents. We'll start.
My question is this though: what happens if you hit that plant with a missile?
Good luck. I mean, yes, like
that. Wasn't Tsar-Bomba a hydrogen fusion bomb?
The Tsar bomb through Russia. It was the biggest bomb ever created.
It was a 76 megaton bomb.
So where are you going to keep it? Where are you going to keep these nuclear energy sources? Probably
Under
out in the
Cheyenne
middle of
Mountains.
nowhere. Out in the desert.
Because what happens, just say somebody gets a wild hair and they nuke it.
Yeah, I mean, no, you got a great point right there.
And now you have a fusion reactor that just went
kaboom.
Nuclear.
Ting. No, I like that. It's a good discussion to have, but do you let those kind of fears, hold us back from a clean,
No. You just build it miles underground.
Yeah. Like, for example, if it was in Vegas, you have an entire desert you can throw it in with miles and miles to keep it away from the actual,
any kind of radar or anything like that. The only threat you have there is like if there's an earthquake.
Right.
But I mean, you would have to. But then again, I mean, atomic reactors have been kind of off limits in war,
Right.
Since they became a thing. So nobody really targets them because they understand the consequences of that. It's not just a them thing; it's a everybody thing because radiation does float in the sky.
It does.
But this is saying that not a lot of radiation is going to be put off.
Right.
That little snippet you just read. So if that's the case, I mean, the only thing that I would be afraid of is if you do create a fusion that is a sustainable fusion, is that going to then pull in? You ever seen Spider-Man 2?
Of course.
Yeah, Doc Ock when he's like trying to do. Is it going to be like that? Is it going to start pulling stuff
that's
into
a
it
good
and
question.
fusing things together?
That's a good question. I have
To
no
create
idea.
that energy. So, I mean, obviously that's sci-fi. That's Spider-Man 2. I mean, it was Sam
Love
Raimi. It's not
Spider-Man
even.
2.
Great source.
Yeah.
Great source.
It's not even. It's not a scholarly journal. But I mean, it was a cool movie.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, to what would happen? I mean, obviously, I don't. You can look at where was it that had a flood? I want to say China. I want to say it was China that
No,
had,
it was Japan. They had a tsunami.
That had a tsunami and it wrecked that nuclear power plant. But
It was Fukushima.
Yep. So I mean,
Gosh, how do I pull that off the top of my head, bro? What's good? It's this hat.
I was actually going to mention that right after this, because I remember you wore that hat when we were golfing one day. Love the Titleist hat, but
I like it because I can just.
Full circle, bringing it back around. It's a good thing. There are precautions we need to probably worry about, but ultimately, I can see this being like you said, a breakthrough.
Definitely
of our,
a good
of our
step in
life.
the right direction.
Yeah, a breakthrough of our lifetime. So.
Not a breakthrough. This would be the breakthrough of our lifetime.
Right, because it leads us towards that number one energy source.
Well, not even just that, Nave, but you also got to think about like space exploration. Now we have a fuel source that never runs out.
I didn't think about that because then we can actually start to build things that will be able to travel through space.
Yeah, because that's the thing about fusion. If it's sustainable. So it's just like the sun. It would be exactly like a star that's just compacted into this reactor. So now you have a space shuttle that can literally go forever.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that would really help, like you said, in space exploration where we can start to, maybe expand planetary wise, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like we can actually start to see generations in the future being able to go from different planets and being able to move from place to place.
We still have to solve the distance of space-time, though.
Right.
Like the time it takes to travel from one
Well,
place
and
to
if
another.
we took all of our resources and put it towards that instead of trying to kill each other, I think we could do that pretty quick.
I think we could.
But, that's a whole different
But trying
discussion.
to find that might also kill everybody.
That's a good point.
Burn.
So, just good thoughts there. Nuclear fusion, great thing coming. Love seeing it. But let's move forward. Let's talk about the next big topic. So this, this is a pretty serious issue that we got going on here. But the Biden administration is bracing for potentially 14,000 migrants a day.
Isn't that down from what it was back when he first took over?
I think this is going to be a huge surge, though. I mean, 14,000 migrants a day is huge. I don't know what exactly that record or that number is, but we'll read through this and see what we got here. So the possibility of 14,000 migrants crossing a day is pushing the Biden administration towards a new rule that would severely limit migrants' ability to qualify for asylum at the southern border. So officials that are concerned that Border Patrol stations will face acute overcrowding and the Department of Homeland Security resources will be overwhelmed when the pandemic-era Title 42 policy ends on December 21st, according to the sources familiar with the plans. So Title 42, implemented during the Trump administration and extended by the President Biden, allows for the rapid expulsion of migrants and asylum seekers at the border. It's scheduled to be lifted in less than 2 weeks, barring last-minute court intervention. Encounters with migrants at the southern border are already at record levels, with the daily tally surpassing 9,000, three times in the first week of half of December. Officials now are preparing for the possibility between 12 to 14,000 migrants attempting to cross every day, which I guess is up from the 9,000, so about 3 to 5,000 more. A draft rule that would impose an asylum ban for roughly 5 months initially has been circulated internally. It would apply to both migrant single adults and families who cross the border illegally, as well as those who arrive at legal ports of entry without already having proper authorization to enter. A final decision on adopting a new rule hasn't been made. A White House spokesperson referred to Axios in a recent tweet by Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre that emphasized no such decisions have been made regarding policy changes. The administration is committed to continuing to secure our borders while maintaining safe, orderly, and humane processing of migrants. This will remain the case when Title 42 is lifted. So big picture here. The consideration of drastic moves such as automatically rejecting people from asylum, similar to efforts under the Trump administration, is a sign of just how concerned top Biden officials are about the situation in the U.S.-Mexico border. It also builds up similar moves officials believe were critical in lowering the number of Ukrainians and Venezuelans attempting to cross the border. The new strategy for Venezuelans and Ukrainians offer new and legal and pathways for people fleeing their home countries, paired with stricter consequences for attempting to cross the border illegally. So there you have it, right? This is kind of a huge issue here. That many people coming across the border at one time, it is a very tough thing to manage. I can only imagine, right? Obviously they're fleeing for a reason, right? They're coming to America because they understand what they're going against in their own home country, and now they want to find asylum. Again, America is people want to be here, right? Like, as much as people hate on America, people want to be here for such, freedom reasons. So right now, with the threat of 14,000 a day, I mean, that is a lot of people to try to turn away, to process and try to turn away. So to strengthen our borders, I do believe it is an important thing, because we can't just have people pouring into our country, right? We have to do it in a very disciplined and good manner. To balance that, I mean, we do need to strengthen our borders, and how we do that, I don't know, because I don't think building a wall is an answer, because walls can get torn down, but we do have to find a way, and what that is, I don't know yet, but I leave that up to discussion right here. So what do you all think is the best solution for this, and how are we going to be able to kind of hold off 14,000 people a day?
You don't.
Yeah.
I mean, border control is already worn thin. I mean, this last 2 years has been really tough on border patrol, and how would you potentially stop waves of people like that? I mean, 14,000 in a day.
Let's just do a little math here.
Yeah.
Calculator.
I love calculators.
24 hours in a day divided by 14,000. Oh, no, 14,000. Sorry. Divided by 24.
583 people an hour.
That's wild. That is wild. How do you process that many people in an hour?
That's 9.7 people per minute.
That's hard. I mean, regardless of who's president, regardless of what administration, how do you control that situation? So this is where, like, I understand a physical barrier not allowing people to get in is like a good thing, but at the same time, it will get destroyed. People will find a way through it, around it, above it, underneath it, doesn't matter. So we have thousands of unemployed veterans. I really don't understand why we don't give them the mental health they need, after returning from duties that were asked upon them from our government, and being able to put them in situations where they could excel in something like a border patrol, right? These are people who have literally seen combat. You're not necessarily going to get, shot at the border, but you can maintain and hold back lots of people, I would argue, with the right kind of firepower. I mean, we don't want to just
World War Z we're talking about. This is, people.
Yeah,
you can't just start firing on people.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't believe it's going to come down to that. But at what point, how do we? This is an interesting discussion. So is the wall something we should consider, like an actual physical barrier, or do we have a very set, you do not cross this line or you will be shot at kind of thing, right? How do you balance this? Because I don't have that answer. I don't know. I mean, this is a tough topic to talk about. You know, I've always thought that
it's extremely tough.
Migration, you know, and immigration laws and issues have always been one of the tougher topics. Because, of course, we want people here in America. I mean, America was built off the back of migrants. And it's still, I would argue it's still, you know, being more and more so every day. I would argue that migrants and immigrants are still the backbone of America and what's carrying us through. But how you do it in a proper way, I don't know, man.
I don't either.
That's tough.
That's, you know, a topic that's kind of above my pay grade.
Yeah, right?
But, no, I mean, with this, it's like, it's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you process 9 people a minute?
I don't
60
know.
seconds.
Yeah,
in
and you
this
have to get 9
short-
people.
In this
84 or the 44 minutes that we've been doing this podcast right now, it's over 300 people.
Yeah. And yeah, that's just during this episode, right?
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
I don't know, man. You know, so it's interesting too because you are facing some extreme circumstances. You have some people that have medical emergencies or other immediate severe harm because again, they're trying to escape their country for a reason, right?
Mhm.
They're trying to flee for a reason. If I'm not mistaken, I know a lot of people are fleeing Mexico due to the cartel issues that they're experiencing over there. If I'm not mistaken, you know, but they also have a lot of people coming from other countries going to Mexico to try to come into America, you know, like people from Venezuela and other such areas.
So if this goes on for 100 days, that's a third of a year. If it goes on for a third of a year, it's 1.4 million people.
Wow. And, you know, I don't care which administration's up there, Trump, Biden, Obama, Bush, whatever.
This is like an
This is
impossible
tough.
task.
Yeah, it's hard to ask your government to
I feel like
handle
this is
something like
literally the definition of being stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Because again, what do? I don't have that answer. Stu, you have any insight on this? What would you, you know, opinion wise, what would you do?
I don't know. I mean, can't let it continue.
Right.
I don't know the solution to it, but I also know the solution isn't ignoring it. Doesn't seem like Biden talks about it. Doesn't seem like Kamala Harris talks about it.
Right.
I don't think they've been to the border since they've been elected.
I don't think so either.
Have y'all seen those videos?
A good start would be acknowledging the issue, and then trying to take opinions from a lot of people and see what we can do.
And this is why we have discussions and debates, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like you said earlier, I mean, I don't blame people for wanting to seek asylum.
Right.
We were blessed to be born here.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't blame people for wanting to have a better life.
Lives, yeah.
But yeah, like you said, between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, because you know it's interesting you said that because there have been people who have grilled Kamala Harris for not visiting the border.
When she was put in charge of this.
Exactly. Biden put her in charge of this, and she hasn't done a thing. Yeah.
Sorry, Kamala Harris's cackles.
I'm not. Because you've
Stuff
had
nightmares are made
reporters,
of.
you've had reporters ask her, like, have you visited the border? And she's like, I've been to the border, but there has been no documentation of her visiting the border at all. So she has
Maybe
not
she
been
turned
there.
incognito on Google.
Yeah,
and
right.
then, you know, visited the border.
What do border issues look like?
You see, in Arizona, they put up like cargo shipment containers.
Really?
Yeah.
To like stop and block. See, like
With a
that's
simple
not a
cutter,
bad
though.
idea.
Yeah,
That's
but a
not
cargo
a bad
ship
idea.
is just steel. I mean, with a simple like fire cutter, you could
Yeah,
right through it.
I'd rather
Apparently,
have
they were
steel than
illegal because it wasn't like federally approved,
Of course.
but the state government did it.
I would almost rather have a cargo though. I mean, think about it. So like when your cargo containers go bad, what do you do with them? I would almost rather have a cargo container instead of concrete, right? You'd rather have concrete instead of steel? Not a bad idea.
I mean, maybe fill those cargo containers
With
of
concrete. Not a bad idea. Right?
It's like they cut through it and it's like
What we gotta cut through.
Jackhammer.
And that's why I thought the Republicans looked like hypocrites when they sent migrants to like these cities. Like I know it's an issue, but sending them through the country isn't the way to solve it either.
Yeah, like trying to make a political statement saying, "Oh, the Biden administration isn't paying enough." You're asking them to again tackle an impossible task that not even any other administration has been able to control. You know what I mean? So to use migrants as a political statement and move, I thought it was so inappropriate and something that was completely unjustified. So
it seems like when Trump was president, this was like a big topic of discussion, which I mean, he made it one as well.
Right.
But I feel like they knew what was going on and they used it to, hurt him. But now it's just not talked about.
That's because they don't want to hurt Biden.
Yeah.
But here's where I have to disagree with you. I think shipping the migrants to these higher wealth areas drew attention to a problem that everyone was trying to ignore.
Well, fair point.
So you don't hear about it in the news. You don't see anything about it coming from policy from the Senate or the White House or the House of Representatives. You don't see or hear anything about it. All you hear is right-wing, media sources saying that the border is overflowing. And then, you can write that off as like, is it? I don't hear about it anywhere else.
Yeah, because we don't know.
And if it was such an issue, why isn't the White House or anybody doing anything about it?
Right.
Now you're seeing this, but also what happened is, when you ship these migrants to these higher wealth places and things like that, it really did draw a lot of attention.
Right.
All of a sudden, now it's in the news cycle. Now it's in, in front, and now people are starting to get heat for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And nothing ever happens unless somebody gets some heat for something in the political world.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think it was a distasteful move. I don't think I can argue with that.
Right.
But the move itself did draw attention to a problem that is not being addressed.
I'll give you that point. I do agree. It does, create a sense of, hey, we have an issue here, and this is how we're going to kind of do it. I don't like using actual humans as a political stunt, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? But I do see where you're coming from. Like, hey, now we have a serious discussion because we just shipped all these people over to these different democratic cities, let's talk about this issue, right? So it can kind of go both ways.
Also, the cities that they shipped them to are refugee cities.
Right. So they are willing to take
supposed
refugees,
to be taking
theoretically.
in the refugees.
Theoretically.
So that's why I don't really see anything that was like wrong with it.
Right.
Because they're shipping them to places that are supposedly there for
refugees.
that purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man.
Bringing it back around full circle, it's an impossible task of any administration to ask to try to handle this. And it's something that's going to take a lot of brain power, a lot of people discussing, and a lot of, it's just going to take time, and we have to figure it out, and we got to start attacking it now. So just my thoughts on that. But that's kind of wrapping that segment up. What do y'all think? Pretty good on that?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, let's move on. SBF's dirty money. So, disgraced crypto kingpin Sam Bankman-Fried was charged Tuesday with illegally steering tons of millions of dollars to federal political campaigns, a key footnote in what prosecutors are calling one of the biggest financial frauds in American history. The campaign finance allegations have intensified in the political shockwaves of FTX's collapse and Bankman-Fried's arrest following his dramatic ascendance as one of the country's most prolific political donors. All of this dirty money was used in service of Bankman-Fried's desire to buy bipartisan influence and impact the direction of public policy in Washington. Bankman-Fried's attorney, Marcus Cohen, said in a statement that he is reviewing the charges with his legal team and considering all of his legal options. Bankman-Fried gave tens of millions of dollars to Democratic candidates and groups this cycle. He has said he also made a large contribution of Republican political candidates, but did in a way that hid his donations. All my Republican donations were dark, he said in the last month. Reporters freaked the F out if you donate to a Republican because they're all super liberal, and I didn't want to have that fight, so I made all Republican ones dark. Fair enough. Bankman-Fried estimated that he was actually the second or third biggest Republican donor in the country during the 2022 midterms, but that he was able to shield those donations from the public view. So what's happening? The federal indictment unsealed on Tuesday includes 8 charges, including one that Bankman-Fried conspired to violate a federal law barring campaign contributions knowingly made in the name of another person. That's
I feel like that's frowned upon.
Yeah. That's what's known as a straw donation. It's often used to illegally mask the true identity of a political donor by routing his or her contributions through another person or organization. It can also be used by a single donor to circumvent campaign contributions limits by parceling out a large donation among multiple straw donors, or by companies trying to get around corporate donation restrictions by routing money through an individual donor. So in a separate civil complaint, the Securities and Exchange Commission alleged Bankman-Fried illegally steered money from his cryptocurrency trading firm to federal political candidates. He used commingled funds from Alameda to make large political donations. By law, corporations are barred from donating to federal political candidates, though they can support some independent political groups. So the Justice Department indictment and SEC complaint do not name any of the beneficiaries of the donations, which is ridiculous. I think they should be named too because they knew what they were doing. Many of the country's top super PACs have sister dark money nonprofits, which often pass along funds to their political arms without having to disclose where that money comes from. And then, so Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, a watchdog group that filed an FEC complaint last week alleging an SBF straw donor scheme, said the criminal charges could spur key political money reforms. So, I mean, this is interesting, right? It kind of shows the corruption and issues that we have with money going towards politicians in the first place. This is tough for me because I going to strictly an opinionated standpoint here. I don't think money should be donated towards politicians at all. I think we need to remove money from the political system in general.
Take here.
I understand a lot of people. I understand a lot of people are would argue that point. But I mean, it's kind of, this is just showing you that money is the root of politics, and that is not what it should be, right? The root of politics should be what we can do for the American people. Yeah, your service towards the American people. But right now, money is the root. How do you, again, when you're putting up $50 million just for a governor race in a state, that's ridiculous. And if you don't have $50 million, guess what? You're not going to that race. And that's what upsets me the most, because it doesn't give the opportunity for your everyday average American to even have a chance, a snowball's chance in hell to try to run for something like that. Just a thought. So, what are y'all on this? How do you think? Good question.
Yeah.
I will say I do give Bankman-Fried real quick. I give him, props for acknowledging that if he would have been openly donating towards Republicans, that the liberal media would have destroyed him. And we will actually discuss that on part 2 of the Twitter Files in the next segment.
You watch his interviews with people, plays dumb and acts like he didn't know all this stuff was going on.
Well, of course.
Of course. He's probably being instructed to do that from his legal team.
Oh, yeah.
Also, why is he getting arrested now? They could have done it weeks ago.
Because he's talking.
I guess the other question is, right, how is what he's doing different from what any corporation is doing? That's what I'm confused about.
The difference
if you're just donating,
that his FTX fell apart.
Yeah. The FTX, from what I understand, had some kind of clause where your money was safe there and they didn't touch it. But
right.
FTX used the money
to donate
and do all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
All kinds of, sketchy stuff.
Makes a little
now,
more sense.
my question is, in a situation like this, these political parties and candidates have accepted millions of dollars, right?
Right.
And dirty money. Do they have to give that back?
I would hope. But of course, they're not going to be able to.
You think so?
Yeah, they're not going to be
You
able to
think
do
so?
that.
I mean, I
it'd
got
be
10
nice.
million from this guy over here. I'm just separated from
We don't know where it went.
Not his money.
It just disappeared. We don't know where it went.
Yeah,
I like
no
the
idea.
Pentagon. I just we're terrible bookkeepers over here.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I have absolutely no clue. That's again something beyond.
I think
my pay grade.
politicians are playing dumb too.
Well, of course, they don't want to acknowledge that they accepted the
They're all
donations.
lawyers.
And even the article even said they're not going to release the information of who the beneficiaries were or who received the money.
See,
So
now that's what I think is bullcrap.
that's what I agree. So
I think that should be released.
they knew what they were doing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing. They should be in trouble just as much as Friedman is, if that's the case.
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
for,
if they're going to go
Penguin
after him that much. And
Yeah,
for
I
all
mean,
this,
exactly.
like, you would think that there would be something in place that says, hey, you, give back the money or you're going to be right there with them.
Yeah,
but
but-
no, of course not.
But again, tinfoil hat time. Same situation is like Epstein, right? If people of political power are in danger, they do the best they can to cover it up.
So you're saying he didn't kill himself?
Wasn't that pretty obvious?
No, I thought he committed suicide. Just like all the other people on Clinton's list.
On the Clinton. Oh, stop
I
it.
also heard a theory.
We're dead.
I don't know if it's a theory, but all your top, like Speaker of the House and all your Senate majority leaders and House minority leaders, like all those people that are like the lead of the, groups.
Right.
Those are all people that are taking the most money.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, look at House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and how she's worth a couple million. If it's not like
no, it's way more than a couple.
Is it not like 200
she's like
million?
50 or 100 or something.
I thought it was
Maybe
a pretty
even
big
more.
number. I thought
Like
I
of
thought it was
all
a pretty
those
big number.
people in the she's in the House. Of all the people in the House, that's who they choose.
Right.
And then like the Senate, they pick Mitch McConnell. I mean,
Turtle.
they gotta have better people than that.
Right? Yeah, because
Well, they targeted Rand Paul, but he said, I don't know. This does not look like it is financially viable.
looking at just a quick Google search, she's estimated worth anywhere from 120 to 170 million dollars.
On $160,000 a year.
210.
Oh, Speaker of the House.
She's probably gotten some,
Raises
some
over the last
See what
40
Mitch
years.
McConnell's worth.
inflation, adjustments.
See what Mitch McConnell's worth.
Mitch McConnell net worth. Just quick Google search. 34 million, roughly.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah, that is a huge difference.
But then again, Nancy does have Paul,
wait a minute.
Paul the whale.
Sorry. He is also a $200,000 salary, and I see numbers anywhere from 50 million up to 150 million. Couple different numbers there.
How does that influx so bad?
I
Like
have
that's
no
a
idea.
huge difference. That's $100 million difference.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
like they're worth something up there.
Yeah, right. I mean, if it's at the latter end, if it's at the 150,
You see the
it's not
process
too
and how
far.
they pick who their leaders are. They're corrupt.
I'll be honest. I don't know too much about like who becomes Speaker of the House or the Senate leader. I don't know that process very well.
I feel like you have to do some favors.
Probably.
Yeah, that's all it is.
A little bit under the desk.
Who's done the favors? Who?
Yeah.
I know.
And there's like little groups inside their groups,
Right.
little packs inside.
Well,
their,
and if you listen to Tulsi Gabbard and her interviews with Joe Rogan or just even on her podcast, she actually talks about how it feels like high school cliques in Washington D.C.
Oh, I believe that.
And that's absolutely absurd. Like, dude, come on, how old are we?
Yeah, but where in society does it not feel like a high school clique?
Good question, actually. Because,
Think about that.
think about that. Like, yeah, we gravitate towards people with our own interests, right? Like, we gravitate towards people when we're playing basketball or when we're, at the gym, we gravitate
there's
towards
always a
those
clique.
individuals, right? So that is an interesting point. I mean, people gravitate towards different kinds of cliques and groups and niches and what they like in life, what we're comfortable with.
One of the shows that I
Psychology.
actually did enjoy was House of Cards.
Never seen it, but I've heard it was fantastic.
You're a political guy. You like politics. I think you would really enjoy that show.
Yeah, I've heard it's
because
amazing.
it does show some of the inner workings of how like the Senate and stuff like that works. Because from what I understand, they were trying to be as accurate as possible with the show.
Right.
And then it kind of got off the rails there at the end with Kevin Spacey, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it talks about the whip. It talks about like these people who, like Kevin Spacey has to go and he has to talk to these people and he has to try to get them to sway a certain
Like
way
his
on a
side,
bill,
yeah.
and he has to go and have an insider, like him and one other person. He like corners them in the hallway quickly and is like, "Listen, I need to talk to you," and like slips them a note. And you know, I wonder. I'm sure that stuff does happen because they're constantly like being surveyed, basically.
Yeah.
So I wonder how accurate that actually was.
I would love to sit down with some people and just kind of talk to them about what their experience was in Washington, whether it be like Gabbard or anybody. I mean, anybody who would be willing to kind of express what it's like.
Yeah, but after you talk to those people, I mean, you see these big interviews and stuff. Like Joe Rogan asked Tulsi, and she was just like, "Yeah, it's kind of like a high school clique," and then she doesn't really go into in depth.
Yeah.
You put a camera on them, they turn into robots.
Yep.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Even the great Tulsi. Even Ronnie D.
You can only go so far until it's like now they're exposing some things and
that they're not supposed to.
And they'll probably get outs by their own political party or by their
suicided.
Or especially if you're involved with.
Nope, I'm not saying it again.
Not saying it twice.
Nope.
I'm interested to see how much information comes out this trial.
Me too. So we'll see what happens with Bankman-Fried. Of course, I want to see kind of the charges that he ends up getting charged with. I want to see how that goes into play. So we'll keep on top of that.
And all the people that lost money.
Yeah, and all the people that lost money. Not to mention the 4 crypto billionaires that have recently passed away. If y'all haven't seen that, interesting. So
and Bankman-Fried just seems like too much of a weasel to actually go up there and stand up and release information to the public. So he'll probably accept a plea deal and get out.
100%. And,
nothing will be discussed.
Nothing, yeah, and he won't even go to prison or anything. So
he'll get to go to an island that is got some funky buildings on it.
Lord.
Well, FTX, I don't know, paid for a vacation home, or maybe it was a real home on like a beach for his parents. And he like tried to play off like he didn't know about it.
Again, probably something he's instructed by his lawyers.
I am not a crook.
Like, dude, come on.
It's, no accountability. But so full circle.
He should be a politician.
He should be a politician. Full circle, we will keep track of this trial and we will update you as we go. So let's hit the last and probably the biggest topic of the night. Twitter Files Part 2. Blacklisting, shadow banning. It just proved everything that we knew about social media in the first place. A new Twitter Files investigation reveals that teams of Twitter employees built it should have been built blacklists, prevent disfavored tweets from trending, and actively limit the visibility of entire accounts or even trending topics, all in secret without informing the users. So something we already knew.
Well, we suspected.
Yeah, we suspected. We didn't know it, but like we all kind of figured, right? So we're just going to go hit these tweets real quick. That's like the majority of the story. It came from Barry Weiss, which is, I honestly actually don't know. Does anybody know who Barry Weiss? Founder and editor of Free Press.
Yeah, I think she used to work for the New York Times and she was independent.
Wow, good for her. I like her so far. So let's talk about this. Number one, so a new Twitter file investigation reveals that teams of Twitter employees build blacklists, prevented disfavored tweets from trending, and actively limit the visibility of entire accounts or even trending topics, all in secret without informing users. And don't forget, during part 1, we already know that majority of the favoritism went towards Democratic sides, right? So, obviously, we know the Republicans and the conservatives are automatically the ones who are being limited or, taken away from being able to see these views. Now, if they're doing it on Twitter, it's pretty clear they're doing it on every single social media platform.
Yeah.
Twitter once had a mission to give everyone the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. Along the way, barriers nevertheless were erected. Take, for example, Stanford's Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, who argued that COVID lockdowns would harm children. Twitter secretly placed him on a trends blacklist, which prevented his tweets from trending. So, there's a picture on here that you can see recent abuse strike, trends blacklist, and how they kind of restricted him. Or consider the popular right-wing talk show host Dan Bongino, who at one point was slapped with a search blacklist. Twitter set the account of conservative activist Charlie Kirk to do not amplify. Twitter denied that it was doing such things. In 2018, Twitter's Vijaya Gadid, who was thank you, then head of the legal policy and trust, and Kayvon Bakpour, head of product, said we do not shadow ban. Then added we certainly don't shadow ban based on political viewpoints or ideology. Liar.
Sounds like a big fat lie.
What many people call shadow banning, Twitter executives employees called visibility filtering, or VF. Multiple
It's not the same if it's not the same title.
words. Multiple high-level sources confirmed its meaning. So think about visibility filtering as being a way for us to suppress what people see to different levels. It's a very powerful tool. VF refers to Twitter's control over user visibility. It's used VF to block searches of individual users, to limit the scope of a particular tweet's discoverability, to block select users' posts from ever appearing on trending page, and from inclusion in hashtag searches, all without the user's knowledge. We control visibility quite a bit, and we control the amplification of your content quite a bit, and normal people do not know how much we do it, one engineer has said. And 2 additional Twitter engineers confirmed it. The group has decided whether to limit the reach of certain users was the Strategic Response Team Global Escalation Team, or SRT GIT. It often handled up to 200 cases a day, but there existed a level beyond official ticketing, beyond the rank and file moderators following the company's policy on paper. That is the Site Integrity Policy Escalation Support, known as SIPPES. This secret group included head of legal, policy, and trust, the global head of trust and safety, subsequent CEOs Jack Dorsey and Parag Agrawal, and others. This is where the biggest, most politically sensitive decisions got made. Think high follower account, controversial. Another Twitter employee told us for these there would be no ticket or anything. One of the accounts that rose to the level of scrutiny was Libs of TikTok, an account that was on the trends blacklist and was designated do not take action on user without consulting the SIPPES.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, right. So I mean, y'all kind of get the point, right? I'm not going to go through even more of this, but y'all can look up the Twitter files yourself. Please feel free to. There's part 1, part 2.
Please do your own research.
I don't know if they're coming out with any more. I think so. I think they're actually coming out with part 3. So they're saying watch Matt to Eby for the next installment.
He was actually just on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I need to catch that episode.
Yeah, I do too myself. But yeah. So I mean, there you have it, right? So shadow banning's a thing. We knew it was a thing, and we've called it, but it was just now being brought to light. And obviously, they say they don't shadow ban based on political views, but I mean, we just saw in part 1 how Democrats got 99% of those donations. Those the favoritism. So I mean, obviously, conservative accounts and people who lean a little more right were all getting shadow banned, or visibility, of their content was getting suppressed. So this is, again, coming to the opinionated side, this is dangerous. If social media sites are going to be limiting your views based on your political ideas,
they're no longer a town hall.
Yeah, they're no longer a town hall.
Especially when they have shown that they were working hand in hand with the U.S. government, whether it's right or left, to ban and block people. When you have that in step with what you have in this one, all social medias no longer deserve the rights and protections of Article 230, right? Section 230.
So yeah, I mean, you're no longer. And here's part of the problem. And I would argue people are using social media to get their news. I don't think that's a smart way to get your news in the first place. I think you need to stick with, again, articles that are. Well, of course, the fact is. But, sticking with your more central articles, whether it's Axios or Reuters or AP, you got to stick with sources that you can trust and not go based off social media.
Well, another thing is you need to check right sources, you need to check left sources, and then you look at your central sources to see if the story is making sense.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a pitfall that people fall into, is the right saying this, the left saying that, the center saying this, and they look at the center, but they don't understand what the right or the left is saying.
Right.
In order to truly grasp what's going on about a certain topic, you do have to do your research on both sides.
Right.
Because there are three sides to a story.
Yeah, I agree.
There's
the outlet called All Sides does a really good job of that.
I was gonna say I follow All Sides. I really like what they do. They'll show you how much of it leans right, how much of it leans left, how much of it's central. It'll compare so many different sources. I really do like that. I follow them on Instagram. So does our Fact Is page. So I would highly suggest following them because they are a very good source to take up.
I agree.
Yeah. So kind of this one's kind of short, simple, and sweet though. I mean, full circle, right? Like, it's wrong.
What's the solution?
Don't get your information off social media. I mean, how do you? That is the question, right? At what point can the government suppress a private organization if they want to filter their content? I mean, what's going to stop them? Like, how can a government stop them? Violation of free speech? No, not necessarily. It's their platform. They're allowed to present whatever they want to.
Not if they're working in cahoots with the government.
That's the other problem, right? Is the government going to solve anything?
Essentially,
anyways?
an arm of the government.
Right. Now, yeah, that's the other issue, because if you are working with the government, you are definitely in the wrong at that point, right? I mean, if you want to lean left or right, that is your choice. And it should be public knowledge, I think. We should obviously be able to see it, but yeah, I mean, the problem is people should not get their information from that.
No, and also, like I said, I think that Article 230 or Section 230, whatever, gives them the provisional, protections.
Right.
I think that needs to be re-examined. I think that they need to now do a deep dive on all the social media platforms,
right.
YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Google.
Every single one.
All of them. And I mean, really look at how this is going on and then change the wording of 230 to try to bring this back to a place where it is a town hall.
Right.
And people are allowed to just, have their ideas, express themselves, and do what social media was intended to do from the first place. I remember I was like one of the first people on Facebook.
MySpace.
Back in 07. Oh, dude, MySpace. Come on, Tom, bring it back.
All right.
But, yeah, I was like one of the first people because I had just gotten into college. And it had just launched, I think, in 2005.
Right.
I was in college in 06, 07. So I was like one of the first people on there, like, oh, check this out.
This is so cool.
Facebook. And back then it was cool.
Right.
Because it was like you could see what all your friends were doing, you could see, and then they added pictures and it was like, bro.
And then they've done more and more and more, and now they're the giants.
Yeah, and now it's this huge mogul source, this media source, and it's like you are no longer the town hall that you were back in 06, 07.
Yeah.
Sorry, you've grown into an editor, a publisher.
Yeah.
Facebook's talked about taking all news off their platform.
Yeah, all
that would
news.
be absolutely amazing, actually.
Well, that would suck for us.
Yeah, for us on that platform.
On that platform, right? But we'd be able to do others.
But I think that would be absolutely amazing as far as the platform itself is concerned.
Right.
Because now it goes back to being what it was supposed to be.
Connecting
social
humans.
media.
Yeah, connecting people.
Friends, connecting people across the world.
And that's,
sharing ideas.
That's the interesting thing. And Zuckerberg actually was on Rogan recently, and to his defense,
No, his android was there.
His android was, or his reptilian state.
I love to do jujitsu.
Yeah,
it is fun.
To his defense, I will say, you know, at some point technology is just going to get into that. Like when you have something this amazing that has done some really good, you're gonna have a bad side to it, right? And there's only so much you can do to kind of, you know, regulate it, and it gets hard again because you're dealing with something that people didn't even realize. We didn't realize how bad social media or how bad these AIs would actually tap into the cognitive state of a human being, right? Like we did not know this.
Oh, someone knew.
Well, I think someone knew after
Someone
learning.
had a really good idea.
But yeah, I mean, at first they're just like, you know, we're doing this for a good purpose. This is going to be amazing. You know, we're going to be able to connect people. And then all of a sudden you see what kind of giant it turns into, you know, when you involve AI and how it literally, I mean, you're not going to be able to beat the AI. It's going to win. That's just like what we built supercomputers for. But
Yeah. I mean,
it's a hard situation to try to grasp.
well, here's the thing: is social media is in its infancy. I
Right.
mean, if you really look
Still
at
is.
if the grand scheme of things, it's not even been around for 20 years yet.
Exactly.
Like newspapers have been around for centuries. Now, television has been around for almost a century.
Yep.
You know, like television, computers, all these things haven't been around for very long.
They're
in
pretty
the,
new.
the span of human
Cell
history.
phones, yeah.
And now you invented the cell phone, which is literally like an extension of your arm
Yeah,
at this point.
At this point.
And people, we don't understand exactly what it is. I mean, we think we do. Yeah, you know, I plug in. I'm on my phone constantly. I'm guilty of it just as much as the next person.
Anybody
But
else?
it's one of those things where the rules from 2005, 2006 don't necessarily apply now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it has grown. It does have AI that has algorithms that are there to, you know, enhance your experience.
Yeah.
Those things weren't around back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
and we don't understand it quite yet.
yeah.
We're humans.
We've opened Pandora's box basically,
Yeah.
and we're just kind of sitting here like, well, now what do we do?
Yeah.
And you have to change the rules of the game with these kinds of things that grow at an exponential rate. And they did change the rules of the game when they started to play publisher, when they started to play editor, when they started to say who could and could not have a voice on their platform.
Right. Yeah, I mean it really is interesting in how they're going to go about it, you know. So we just continue to take it a day at a time. We try to learn the technology and we try to make it the best experience we can for human beings. I mean, that's, you know, ultimately what you hope happens and what they do. So
Until, of course, the AI is invented and we beam up and then become Transformers. At that point, like, call me optimist.
Call
Let's
me
go.
optimist. Oh man, so full circle.
Beginning, there was the cube.
It's funny too because all of those, there's so many people that were caught in lies saying they weren't shadow banning and doing all this stuff.
Yeah, and where's the accountability? I mean, there's going to be none. They've gotten fired at this point, which is good, but like, you know, the accountability for all the money they've made and all the lying they've done, it's not going to happen.
Dude, do y'all agree with Elon being like the sole decision maker? Just one person?
I mean, again,
At a private company?
communism on paper is the best form of government, but realistically, I mean, yeah, I think for now, while he's cleaning out the weeds until he gets a team established,
Yeah.
you know,
At a private company. It's not a public company.
Yeah.
It's a private company.
he
It's
can do what he
his.
wants,
He should be able to do whatever he wants.
just like anybody who runs a private organization.
Now, with that being said, I also agree with Nave. While he's cleaning out the weeds, he's deforesting this overrun jungle, basically, that is Twitter. And once he's able to do that and then put a team of people that he trusts to do the right thing in, you know, then all of a sudden, now it should go back to maybe a board.
Yeah, I
Plus,
agree.
Elon, stop wasting time on Twitter, bro. Get us to Mars.
Well, hey, look, he's gotta help us down here on Earth before he can start the planetary exploration.
He's an absolute super genius, though.
He is.
You know, you think about this. He's going to get us to Mars.
Oh, yeah.
What he's doing right now is he's figuring out how to make it awesome on Earth so that when we do go to Mars, it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Because right now it's not awesome. So it's like,
tough right now.
I mean, it's at this present moment, It is tough.
Yeah.
But overall, the human experience is pretty awesome. Let's
I
be
mean,
real.
yeah. If you look at, you can look at life in two different ways, right? You can look at it from a positive outlook, or you can look at it from a negative outlook, pessimist, optimistic, right? But how you perceive life and what you do with it is based on you. Unfortunately, a lot of politics and a lot of things in general come down to like the human psyche and a lot of psychology and how you allow your brain. And part of the problem with technology, of course, is it's literally tapped into our emotions. It controls you, right? The dopamine you get from notifications and how
So I
it's
turn all my notification off.
it's almost like a slot machine, literally, because as soon as you get it, it's like you're paying attention to it, and people just can't comprehend that kind of computing power. Like, humans are not capable. I mean, we've developed over how many years? I mean, think about back to like the caveman, right? Or
The argument's there that might not be the best. Like, that might not be the bad thing, man. Let's go back.
Right.
Let's go back and just build some houses out in the forest and hunt our food.
Yep.
Have little villages, like all
Be
of us
nice.
come together. Like, there's 20 of us,
But yeah, I mean, as
You can build a compound.
that's the problem. Like, technology has expanded just so drastically that we're not able to keep up.
No.
The human brain just isn't able to keep up with
And
it.
that's what Elon was actually talking about on the JRE
Yeah.
last time he was on there. He's like, yes, right now the human population stores most of the information on the planet.
Yep.
That is not going to be the case very, very soon, because AI is going to be able to learn at an exponential rate.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't take naps. It doesn't, Skynet, bro. It's here.
It doesn't need it. Yeah.
But my argument with Skynet is, if you're so smart, why did you send a naked man back in the past? Like, that's stupid. That's like the worst way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
No, but I mean, yeah, just keeping it full circle here. I mean, yeah, it's a tough topic because, again, we don't truly comprehend what this is doing to us, and
we don't.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep going back to it. Section 230. It's
Yep.
got to be amended.
Yep. So I think this is a good topic. We will obviously keep you updated with part 3. We are gonna continue to follow this Twitter trend and see what happens there. But full circle, I think we're pretty good on this, right?
Yeah,
So we've acknowledged what's happened there. We are coming up on an hour and a half. Beautiful, beautiful time.
Seems to be our sweet spot.
I think it's about an hour and a half is our sweet spot.
We seem to average right about that.
Yeah.
The last one was like, what, hour 45?
It was close
But
to
we had
it.
a ton of
we
engagement.
had more people talking and
Yeah.
comments and things of that nature.
We didn't have anybody to bounce ideas off.
Yeah,
Where you at, Dean? Where you at, Manny? We need our old faithfuls,
Yeah,
man.
sometimes you're busy. I understand. It happens. We've all got lives, unfortunately.
You were talking about like the human experience. You're either positive or you're negative.
Right.
Optimistic or you're pessimistic.
Yeah.
So my wife's nickname for me is Optimist Prime. She's like, you see the world through this like everything is sunshine and rainbows lens.
But that's
all
a beautiful.
the time.
But that's a beautiful thing, right?
You're always
Like,
happy.
yeah, exactly. You just you enjoy life.
Even when the craziest stuff in the world's happening to me, I'm still happy.
Yeah, you gotta
I
enjoy
get to
it.
see you guys.
Yeah.
I get to see my kids. I get to see my
Me
wife.
too,
and I get
man.
to do all kinds of fun stuff all the time.
Yeah, and you got to take that positive experience.
I was
And,
really hoping to have a good conversation with Dean and Mandy
Yeah.
here tonight, but
We should mandate them to watch every Wednesday.
that's
If
right.
we're gonna start sending them swag, they definitely need to. I need you guys to be visibly present. Take a selfie and post it in the comments with your fact is
throw
gear.
it all over social media.
Yep. Fact is gear. You need to be on there. So you'll be hearing from me next week. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap up episode 105 here. Thank you all for joining us. Anybody who did join us today, not as much engagement, but of course, anybody who was here just watching, we were up a decent amount of viewers, just people enjoying. And, thank you for coming by and experiencing the show. We really appreciate it. Please make sure that the one thing you do that can help us out the most is share, like, comment, of course, just throw us around everywhere. We, the one thing we ask is not necessarily for cash donations, but what we would like to see is donations through shares and being able to push us out to people you agree with, but ultimately those you disagree with, because here the fact is we believe that more people have things in common than what we don't. So Thank you all again for everything you do. Of course, this wouldn't be possible without you guys, and especially without Ryan and Stu. Thank you all. But let's go ahead and wrap up 105. Thank you all again for joining us. Please make sure to follow us on all of our social medias, and if you don't know where they all are, you can find them all on Facebook. They're all linked. We got YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, soon to possibly be Twitter, Rumble, the Royal Rumble,
Royal Rumble,
and multiple other sites. So please make sure you all follow us on everything. And with that being said, thank you all for coming to the 105th episode of the Fact Is Podcast. We're your hosts, Nath Moses.
And I'm Ryan Mays.
And Stu, thank you for everything you do back there.
Jamie.
Thank you all. Thank you all again. We will see you all next week for the 106th episode.